Opus Uncensored, by students,
for students. Opus Uncensored is recorded on the grounds of Callaghan campus. We would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of these lands, the Pamalong clan of the Awabakal people, and extend our respect to all Indigenous peoples listening. We also extend this acknowledgement and respect to the Indigenous owners of the lands of our listeners. In doing so, we acknowledge that this land was never ceded, nor was it terra nullius.
It's almost election season at UNSA, and today on the podcast we're going to talk about the different UNSA positions that are on the SRC and the board. Georgie, maybe you'd like to start us off.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start talking about the president, who is the chair of the UNSA Board of Directors and the SRC. This is currently Luca Harrison. He's been in the role for 2021. So the main roles of the president include presiding over meetings, ensuring compliance with all the governance things we need to make sure we're doing, overseeing the performance of the different SRC representatives, and just making sure that the SRC is genuinely representing the student voice of all students at UON, which is the key function, of course. It's also the responsibility of the president to ensure good partnership with the university and also being a voice to the external community from the university as well. So talking to the media and things like that about what UNSA might be up to, and just ensuring that there's a genuine voice for students in key areas of university decision making as well, which is very important. So we like to say that the president's an ever-changing, ever-evolving sort of role. You'll catch Luca always on the phone to someone or other. He's a very busy boy.
As Georgie said, the president is a very busy man. And in addition to all of the fun things that Georgie's mentioned, he also works really closely with Georgia Killick, our general manager here at UNSA, as well as other UNSA staff and members of the SRC executive to achieve all of the responsibilities and ensure the effective running of UNSA. So it's a pretty important role, so if you're interested in the presidency, feel free to jump onto the UNSA website, have a bit more of a read up on the president, have a read up on Luca, and if you've got any questions or you're interested in maybe applying for the role, have a check out, send an email to the UNSA office account, and I'm sure Luca's happy to answer any questions as well. So would that sum up the president? What do you reckon?
Yeah,
pretty good?
That's good.
All right.
So next we'll move on to talking about the vice president positions, which are also very important in the UNSA board and SRC. So we'll start with Jess, who's our VP Welfare and Wellbeing.
Thanks, Georgie. So up next is the Vice President of Welfare Wellbeing. That is me this year. I'm really excited to be part of UNSA again for the second term, so thank you for trusting me with all your welfare needs. So basically, the Vice President of Welfare and Wellbeing leads a portfolio that identifies and organises a range of different services and activities around the student welfare space. My main mission and the mission of the portfolio in general is to ensure that students feel safe, they feel supported, and they're part of the community while studying at U1. So sometimes this role can be working in the office, having chats and meetings with students, talking about their specific circumstances, and then other times it can be organising initiatives such as the Freezies initiative that we've got going here too. If you guys haven't heard of that, please do jump on the website and check it out. Frozen meals, very cheap, very fun and fresh. So running initiatives, running programs as well, mental health first aid, getting an RSA, RCG, all those kind of things. So initiatives, activities, really fun things, but also advocating more generally for students. The Welfare, Wellbeing Vice President also chairs a committee, which is very similar to a lot of the other executives. Georgie's got one as well, where we run a committee with specific student representatives from different equity groups and different communities within the UN community more broadly. So make sure that the active voice of students is happening, that welfare is the first and foremost priority of UNSA. So this position works really closely with the president, UNSA staff, other VPs, Georgia Killick again, our general manager, and other executive to achieve all of the responsibilities. So it's a really fun, really ever-changing, much like the president role. Every day is different. Sometimes you can be on the barbecue, sometimes you can be in board meetings. It really just depends. But if you're interested in a very versatile role with students at the forefront, Vice President Welfare Wellbeing is your role. So I think we'll move on to the Vice President of Education. Now, Lucas is going to give us a bit of rundown.
Yeah, so the Vice President of Education, they're, as you can guess, within education, and it's currently represented by Chloe Jones, and she essentially, the position itself runs its own committee, much like the other Vice Presidents, and it really just advocates mostly. So whereas other roles might have a particular role creating events and having fun events, I think education is a much more advocate kind of role, kind of centres on holding the university accountable and making sure that Our education's really at the highest standards it can be, which for a university is really important. So the VP of Education works on the board with the President and the other VPs. And the last Vice President that we'll cover off is the Vice President of Experience and Engagement. And Georgie, you'll talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so that's me. I'm in the VP Experience and Engagement role for 2021. It's been really fun being in this role. I've learnt so much about governance and working in committees with other representatives and working with staff on events and fun initiatives as well. So I'll tell you a little bit about this position. Pretty much this portfolio covers a range of activities and events to aim to support a positive out-of-class experience at UON and help students feel part of a community again, which is also really important. So being able to meet people, feel supported, and have some fun while they're undertaking their university studies as well. So the VP Experience and Engagement has the opportunity to enhance the student experience through developing extracurricular events and activities through UNSA, as well as working with the student media officer and the clubs and societies officer at UNSA as well. So working across a whole range of areas and with a whole different range of students as well. So it's a pretty exciting role to be in. And so like the other VPs, the Experienced Engagement VP also has a committee that they oversee. Yes, and so this committee serves the purpose of gathering feedback and ideas about student experience and bringing any issues to the attention of the SRC and how we can improve the experience of students on all campuses, including online. So we're always keen to hear feedback in that space. The VP Experience and Engagement works closely with the President, the other Vice Presidents, UNSA staff and other members of the SRC, and also with the Media Officer of OPUS to achieve all of these responsibilities and ensure student voice is being represented in this sort of space.
In conjunction with the Vice Presidents and the President on the board, as well as the SRC, we have two Senate conveners. We have a postgrad Senate convener and we have an international Senate convener. So the postgrad convener for 2021 is Faisal, and he leads a postgraduate student Senate, which is an assembly that represents the views, interests and needs of all the postgraduate students here at UON. So the convener drives the identification of issues that affect the educational and extracurricular experiences of postgrad students, as well as helps the welfare officer, or the Vice President of Welfare Wellbeing, with navigating and honing in on the issues and initiatives that can target postgraduate life here at UON. The convener also ensures that the Senate genuinely captures and represents the student voice of postgrad. And being a postgrad student is quite difficult. It's quite a long and tedious process. So it's always good to have some solid representation, which is why the postgrad Senate convener is such an important role and the Senate itself is such an important assembly. So the convener leads campaigns on relevant issues and supports the advocacy of postgrad students and their issues. And in addition to the overarching functions of the Senate, it's the convener's responsibility to monitor and support the representatives to the Senate. So looking after the actual student representatives that sit on the Senate, making sure that their welfare and well-being is looked after as well. So this role works closely with the President, the VP Welfare, UNSA staff, and other members of the executive to achieve all of these responsibilities. And our last Senate convener is the International Senate convener, which is currently housed by Shuang, who does a fantastic job. I'm sure you've seen her out and about on campus.
She's very enthusiastic.
Yeah, loves a good chat. So she leads the International Student Senate, which again is very similar to the Postgrad Senate in that it's made up of students who belong to this cohort and functions as a way of representing the views, interests and needs of all international students at UON. Especially in the last year, it's been really important and vital and so helpful to have Shuang here looking out for international students on campus and overseas. So if you've got any questions, if you're an international student listening, make sure you reach out to Shuang and get in contact. She's always happy to have a chat. So yeah, we have those roles, much like the postgrad international student identifies the issues that affect their education, out-of-class experience, all the things going on in that space. So you've got a representative really for every part of the UON community, I think, which is what makes UNSA so cool. So many different things. And again, International Convener works with the President, UNSA staff, other exec, whoever they can really think of, liaise with, they're there at the forefront, fighting for student rights and relationships and all that fun stuff. So those are our conveners, and that's all of the board members that we have. In conjunction, we do have 2 independent directors that are industry experts, as well as a community director position, but those ones aren't student positions. But that's the board. And then we have a few more that sit on the SRC. So
Yeah, so in addition to the board members, we have some more representatives on the SRC. So these include our 5 campus conveners. So we have Port Macquarie, Sydney, Newcastle, Central Coast, and the cloud or online student campus convener. So the aim of these different portfolios is to represent students from those specific campuses and identify and represent their views, interests, and needs specific to their location that they're studying. And so the campus convener role in each of these 5 positions drives the identification of these issues affecting education, out-of-class experiences relevant to these campuses, and ensuring that each committee run by each convener is representing the student voice of those particular cohorts of students. Yeah, so that's a bit about the campus convener positions, who lead campaigns on relevant issues to their cohorts, support advocacy of those students, and bring issues to the attention of the SRC. So there's some really important roles as well that you can check out more about on the UNSA website. And so that just leaves our ex officio or external roles that are also part of the SRC that I'll let Lucas talk a bit about.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 3 ex officio roles, and they include the student accommodation rep. So this role doesn't have a committee per se. It's just made up of one person who represents all the students that live on campus, and normally that role will be filled by somebody that's voted in by those people. So normally there'll be a member of student living. And the other role is the student rep on the academic senate. So that's one of the students. Academic senate is the peak academic governance body within the university, and so that's made up of 3 undergraduate students, a postgraduate, and a HDR student. And so they choose amongst themselves who's going to come and sit on the SRC and represent all those different representatives. And then finally, arguably the most important member of the SRC is the student member on the University Council, and that's filled by myself, Lucas Dowling. And the University Council is kind of the peak governance body at the university. Often I find the best example to use is that the University Council's equivalent is like the board of a private company, and so that's chaired by the Chancellor and features the Vice-Chancellor and then members of elected staff members of both professional and academic, as well as some external people as well, and then 1 student representative. And so that's the makeup of the SRC.
Pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
It's long-winded, but there is something for everyone. So if you're interested, like we said before, if you're interested in getting involved, feel free to have a chat with any of us as well. Our portfolios are on the website. You can reach out to us personally. We're happy to answer any questions, meet up for coffee if you're interested in running, or if you've just got more questions generally about how each position can help you. Again, reach out, have a read, work it out, and by all means, run in the election. It's really fun. You learn a lot, especially like Lucas, your position. I imagine you learn some interesting things.
I think most thing that you get out of this is the professional development. Like, you learn so much that you would never have any idea of just being a student. You really need to reach out, and really these positions kind of taken campus activation. I think is one of the biggest things that the university has to deal with. I think all these positions feed into that. So get involved, join, even if you're not on SRC, join a committee that one of these has, and you can contribute, and we can all make Newcastle Uni a really great place to be.
Until next time, you've been listening to Opus Uncensored
with Jess
and Georgie
And Lucas.